these perfect messages afterwards, being like, "We would love to invite you onto the podcast." So I did that as well more recently, but that was just.
I remember you telling you that. Yeah.
I put a few clips up at the time because it was when I was before I ended up back at One Playground.
Yeah.
So I put a few clips up, but it was just through Zoom.
Yeah.
It's all right though. No, it wasn't great.
So this is the best podcast you've been on so far.
Fingers crossed. Definitely the best setup.
It's mate, we're all
sorted.
the gear, no idea. Just one thing, you'll just have to have that a lot closer.
Oh,
so
do I?
yeah.
Okay.
So it needs to be pretty much like maybe a couple inches.
Okay, because I'm going to be like sitting back. So
yeah. So
is that good?
I think so. Just talking to it.
Hello.
Yeah. That's good. The first one I did, I sat back like a little bit, and it picked it up decently, but it didn't do as good a job. Robbie was like right on it, and you could really hear him clearly. But
spitting down the mic.
Yeah, he loves it though.
He's had a bit of practice, hasn't he?
He has.
Because him and Andy. What happened to that?
Andy got into construction. So
and that was it.
That was it. Yeah.
No more.
So, mate, we're on.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. It's like behind the scenes.
That's it. So that's what I want. Well, that was Robbie's idea, just to like start and see how we go from there. So then we just get talking.
Do you know what? You shouldn't have told me.
Why?
You should just kept it like with me just thinking we're having a bit of foreplay.
Well,
and then see what comes out.
Yeah.
There maybe be bits to edit out.
Yeah,
but
I'm not that good at the editing.
Okay.
So we're pretty much one take, mate, and then
all right, lovely.
That's it. So I cut like a little bit off the start, but pretty much that's the go.
Yeah, right.
I want it to be as little effort as possible.
Like it, yeah.
And that was a little bit too much effort for the technical difficulties there at the start.
Yeah, right, let's roll.
Cool. Right, so like as I said just off air, the goal is to just get on, have some conversations about whatever it is, strength, health, personal development and all that sort of stuff. So I've obviously got the experts in like yourself, and we're going to see what we can get out of it. And I actually there's been 2 instances where I've ragged on your pool game. Like,
have you already?
Yeah, so well, the first episode.
Will I swear?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, good.
Yeah, the first episode, and then the second episode, and I was like, well, I have to have you on now to defend yourself.
Okay, so this is where we're starting. My defence.
We're starting.
I was drunk.
So was I.
All right, well, what else can I have?
I don't know, mate. Well, that probably played into me not caring as much and playing a little bit better. Not caring as much, but like, there was probably a lot of flukes.
Yeah, sometimes, when you just stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I am cut deep. Mel mentioned it today. I saw Mel, and she I can't get away from this.
Did she? Well, it was 3. Sorry, 2-1.
Yeah, you won by 1.
Yeah, that's fair. Did she tell you what she lost by?
6.
6.
Yeah.
And how many she won?
No.
None.
Yeah.
So she's. So what I said is you two could probably team up. And then
I don't need a team. We just need to play again.
Mate, Strawberry Hills.
Mate, I'm there.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Well, that's it, mate. We organised the pool tournament.
That's it. This can become a pool podcast.
Absolutely. It's the 3rd time
we can call it Hole in One.
No.
Oh no,
that's
golf, isn't it? Yeah.
Hey, you just recently started playing golf, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. How's that been?
Inconsistent and
frustrating.
Very, very frustrating.
Yeah,
because it's one of those things that you get so much feedback every time, because every shot is feedback, but you hit one. And do you know what? It's like you think you're playing well, you think you're doing okay, and then you hit a really good shot, and you're like, okay, that's what it feels like.
That's the standard now.
And then you just can't replicate it. No matter how. And the further I get into it, if I'm playing like driving range, 250 balls or whatever, the further down the line I go, the more frustrated I am, the more I get in my own head, and then the worse it gets. But I just keep shanking them right. So if anyone listening to this is a golf pro and wants to give me some tips.
Very common. I can tell you why that's happening. Do you know why it's happening?
No, I don't know.
So in practice, it's actually a relatively simple game. If you have the club face square on impact, the ball will go straight. So you've kicked a soccer ball before, yeah?
I have.
And so you know how you can like curve it and bend it in certain directions. It's the same thing with a golf ball. but it's just a lot easier to kick a soccer ball like on one side or the other to like sort of slice it off.
I wish we could call it football.
Football, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. But that's an oval. That's a football.
That's a rugby ball. There are some very clear distinctions that we need to make here. The one that you play with your feet is a football.
No, I agree that it is the silliest. That it's silly that we call rugby and rugby league football because you kick it very little.
Yeah, and then you call AFL football.
Yeah.
And then union football.
Yeah.
And then the only thing that is football
is soccer.
You call soccer.
In football, when you bend the ball, it's the same concept. It's that if the club face is open on impact, then the ball will get pushed in that direction, right?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how to fix it, but that's what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I know the problem.
Yeah.
But I have no solution.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's what we're
right. That's what we're all about.
Identify problems.
There you go.
And no solution.
Tell you what you don't know. Don't tell you how to fix it.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole coaching.
Go
thing.
figure it out.
Yeah. Well, that's what golf is.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what's happening. That's called a slice. It's the most frustrating game that you can play.
Yes, wonderful though. It's also fantastic.
I'm surprised that you're only just getting into it now, being a Scotsman.
Yeah. I think that. Well, to be fair, my experience playing golf up until this point was at university because we lived on. Our uni was on a campus.
Yeah.
And on the campus was a par 3, 9-hole par 3.
Yeah.
On campus, and the only time we played golf, it involved a carry out.
Yeah.
So it involved having a bag full of beer.
Yeah.
And walking around with a couple of golf clubs and just smashing it,
hitting it. Yeah.
and then just playing drinking games as you went.
Yeah.
So it wasn't conducive to improvement.
Yeah.
It was conducive to fun.
Yeah.
I had a good time doing it.
That's how most people play golf.
I didn't get much better despite, and I played quite a lot.
Yeah.
We went quite often.
Yeah.
It was either that or going to the football pitch.
Yeah.
So we played often,
Soccer
but
pitch.
but I didn't get any better. So now I've had a few lessons and everything.
Yeah. It's a good place to start because most people don't do that. I've never had a golf lesson before, but I've played since I was like maybe 10 or something like that. I can hit a ball well enough to make to someone who doesn't know golf to be like, oh, you know how to play golf, and I kind of do, but I'm just as bad.
Yeah. Well, it's great actually. It's just such a great example of skill acquisition as well. So like when I had the lesson, I used this because I used it as a model for teaching people how to coach.
Okay.
So when I'm running, if I'm running cert 3, cert 4, if I'm running anything, mentoring, whatever we're doing, because the process is the same.
Yeah.
Like first of all, you need to explain what it is, what the goal or what the outcome that you want to achieve is.
Mm-hmm.
Then you need to give them a mental model of what the successful performance of that actually looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Then you give them one thing to focus on,
Mm-hmm.
and then you refine it through feedback.
Yeah.
So when I went into it, and I had this coach, a guy named, oh God, what was his name? Ollie. Guy named Ollie. Like there was a million things wrong with my swing, but he's similar to what you're saying. He was like, okay, we need to focus on where the ball is hitting the club face,
Mm-hmm.
and if we can do that, then you're going to stop slicing it. It's going to go forward. He then grabbed the club, showed me exactly what he wanted me to do, and he was like, okay, all I want you to focus on is your finish position.
Mm-hmm.
And he essentially he manhandled me all the way back. So because I was basically just swinging straight up and straight down, just like hacking at it.
Yeah.
And he put me into this. He was like, right, on your backswing, you need to finish in this position.
Yeah.
And just focused. Didn't give me anything else.
Yeah.
Just gave me that one focus. Just find that finishing position.
Yeah.
And then don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about your grip. Don't worry about don't worry about your foreswing. Just find that one position on your backswing.
Yeah.
And then he let me go practice.
Yeah.
And then every time in doing that and then having that one focus, it immediately improved my swing.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, how did that feel? And if I felt like I got into that position on the backswing, then I was like, yeah, that felt great.
Yeah.
If I didn't, I was like, I didn't quite get there. And he was able then to correct me.
Yeah.
But it's the same for coaching a deadlift.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to explain what it is that you want them to do, what the outcome of it is. You need to show them what the successful performance of that actually looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then you need to give them one focus.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong anyway when they coach, is that they give 5 focuses.
Yeah.
Do you know how I use this all the time, but do you know how much information we can hold in working memory?
No.
On
You've
average?
probably told us in a development before.
Probably, yeah. On average, it's 4.
For
4 pieces of information
Yeah.
that you can hold in working memory.
Yeah.
So I think if you're there and you're coaching someone through a deadlift
Yeah.
and they've never done a deadlift before, you can safely assume that one piece of working memory is probably thinking about what's for dinner,
Yeah.
or how intimidated they are in the gym environment.
Yeah.
So you might only have like 3 pieces of working memory, maybe even 2.
Yeah.
So then if you're like, okay, push your hips back, push the floor away, pull the bar up, chest up, keep your core tight, and chuck 5 different things at them. They only have 2 spaces
Yeah.
to retain information or
Yeah.
to hold information.
Yeah.
So if you put 2 in, then you put another 2 in, the original 2 fall out.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you don't get any impact. And
Yeah.
then they actually spend more time focusing on what you and what you're saying,
Yeah.
as opposed to what they're doing.
Yeah.
So the thing he did really well was just like, didn't try to change anything else.
Yeah.
He just found that lead domino.
Yeah.
Like, what is that one thing that's going to have the biggest impact?
Yeah.
And just let me focus on that. It's like, go away for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All I want you to think about is that.
And how'd you go?
Well, I improved.
Yeah.
But then it was an extra 5 weeks, and all that improvement disappeared because I didn't have that feedback
Yeah.
within a short enough period of time. Because you get that, and I got that immediate improvement over the couple of weeks, but then the further away it is from that structured
Yeah.
piece of learning,
Yeah.
you start to let bad habits sneak in. You forget what that feeling might feel like,
Yeah.
and then you kind of lose your way
Just
a little
get
bit, and you
a
need that.
little bit further away. And
You need that calibration.
Yeah,
You need
yeah,
that
yeah,
someone
yeah.
coming in, be like, okay, back to,
Yeah.
let's kind of hit the reset and show you that position again.
Yeah.
But it's a really, for me, it's the perfect example of give them an outcome, give them the mental model, give them a focus, and then give them feedback.
Yeah.
In anything that we do, it applies. Like, I use the same thing if I was coaching exercise, if I was teaching.
Yeah.
If I'm teaching a skill,
Yeah.
same thing. Explain what I want to do a demonstration, give them something to focus on,
Yeah.
and then allow them to reflect and give themselves feedback.
Yeah, and it's a really, really good example of that, because there's so many things in a golf swing that can go wrong and will go wrong, but like you said, you can only hold on to 4 pieces of information, and they're going to mess most of it up.
Yeah.
And then it's everybody's been in the scenario where you've given a cue and someone's missed it, and then you get onto another cue and another cue, and it just goes around and around and around when you've missed your point a couple of minutes ago,
Yeah.
5-10 minutes ago, and then you're like, I fucked all that up. And
Or you're introducing new cues that they've never heard before while they're doing the exercise,
yeah.
and expecting them all of a sudden to know exactly what you want them to do.
Yeah. That was a big one I learned, I guess actually about 7-8 years ago, of just like say a whole lot less when someone's doing an exercise, because if you say something new, then they stop, and then
There was some research out there, and I think I got this from Nick Winkelman, but I think he got it from someone else. But the research was that you should only cue every 3rd rep,
right, okay,
or only speak
Yeah.
every 3rd rep.
Yeah.
Now, I'd need to find it, don't quote me on it, but I'm 90% sure that was the result of some research that they did.
Yeah.
And it's that idea of less is more. But
Yeah.
I think when you're coaching, and if you're not confident as a coach, you feel like you need to continually be providing input.
Yeah.
And just doing it for the sake of providing input, but it's actually detracting from the learning
Yeah.
process for the client, because we learn through trial and error.
Yeah.
We learn by making mistakes, and we learn by paying attention to what we're doing and being able to self-correct.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know when you've done a shit squat?
It'll feel horrible, or
It feels shit,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you've done enough good squats
Yeah.
and enough shit squats
Yeah.
to be able to understand what good and bad feels like.
Yeah.
Brand new client doesn't have that. So actually the focus is giving them that context,
Yeah.
allowing them to recognize what good feels like,
Yeah.
and allow them to recognize what bad feels like, and just focusing on giving them that before a million other things to focus on.
Because everybody's gonna fuck everything up at
All
some
the
point.
time, yeah. But
Everybody-
that's learning, right?
Yeah, that is.
You
And
fell off a bike,
Yeah.
you got back on, you
Yeah.
fell off a bike, you got back on, you
Yeah.
fell off a bike.
Yeah, and it'll just keep going around
Yeah.
and around and around, and you can't get perfect, particularly not straight up.
Yeah.
It won't happen, and trying to will end up in you not learning that great, or you'll never work out at a decent intensity, or you'll never play the game of golf if you wait till you hit a perfect shot.
And I think it's really interesting, because then, for whatever reason, we almost forget that when we're in a coaching environment, like on the gym floor, and it becomes try and get it perfect in one session.
Yeah.
But you would never expect to pick up a guitar and become perfect in one session.
Yeah.
You would appreciate that it's just about making slow progress and practice over a period of time.
Yeah.
So I think we can be, and I know I was, be guilty of trying to like throw the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
When really it's just like, what's that lead domino? What's that one thing to focus on that's going to have the biggest impact?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now they can do that. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
All right, cool. What's the next thing? Done. Next thing, done.
Yeah.
And actually just build it out from there.
Yeah.
And they'll get to that point where they are unconsciously competent.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to happen in a 40-minute session.
No, I think there's two things in that. I think people underestimate exercise as a skill.
100%.
In that
100%.
people are like, oh, I'm seeing people do a squat and I have a human body, and I can move it, so therefore I can do it. And then obviously the coach can be a default as well too. Like we've all been there as coaches. I think as well, people often focus too much on like that final outcome of like, I want to be able to squat 150 kilos, or weightlifting is a very good example, similar to golf, and that there's so many things that go on, and people just like a snatch. People are like, I want to get the bar overhead, so that's what I'm going to focus on. But to get that, you need to focus on the process more than you do that outcome, and it can go for everything. But when you break down exercise as a skill, like you would a sporting movement or playing guitar or whatever it is, and just focus on a couple things that are basic. But it's oftentimes that those things are somewhat boring, in that weightlifting, for instance, everybody wants to think about doing a cool snatch, or golf, you want to be able to drive at 300 yards. But thinking about trying to hit it that far, or
I'm still on a 9-iron, mate.
Are you? Yeah.
Nah, I reckon I can get as far down as like a 4.
4's hard to hit.
Yeah, and maybe 2 in 10. Should just say 1 in 5. 1 in 5 shots are decent.
That's probably what most golfers are like, though. It's a hard sport. The further you go down the clubs, mate, the harder they get to hit. I can't
even hold a driver.
Really?
It's an absolute shambles. I'm the guy that's on the driving range, swing a driver and it goes backwards. Like the ball like just bounces backwards and then falls down the wee netting and drops onto someone else's.
Yeah, fair. We've all been there as well too.
That's me,
mate. It's a very hard thing to pick up.
Yeah,
it's such a hard thing. I play my dad was quite good at playing golf, so I just played, and we didn't pay to play at home, so we just go to the golf course because it's in the middle of nowhere and you don't pay green fees, and so we used to just play like 3 to 4 times a week. So I got quite good at it, but I didn't realize how hard it was until I don't remember we went to the driving range for Chris Bates' farewell.
Yes, we did, yeah.
And I felt like a king because I could hit the ball, and everybody was like, "How the fuck can you do that?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I just
country boy."
Yeah, just a country boy. Spent hours on the golf course.
Plenty of room to hit balls.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Have you played a round yet, or?
Yeah, I did. Weirdly enough, like 5 holes on the back end of Moore Park.
Yeah.
Because I was meant to have a lesson and the guy got double booked.
Right.
So it was like, come with us and I'll just chuck you on the back 5.
Teach him a lesson in managing his business, mate.
Could do, mate. Yeah, could do. I don't think he's too fussed, to be honest.
Yeah, fair.
But it was good because we played the last 5 And actually, I think it was the 14th, I got a birdie.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was a win. And I played Marrickville a couple of times as well.
Yeah, it's pretty casual there.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good if you're entry level.
Yeah. I like that type of golf because some of I've never played at many of the big ones. Like I've played Moore Park, and then there's a couple down like on the coast, and you just feel so out of place.
Yeah.
There because like we would wear thongs when we played golf at home and like a singlet and stuff like that. But like down here, you can't do that.
It's expensive sport.
Yeah.
Very expensive sport. Like, I think that you price so many people out of it.
Yeah.
Just because if you wanted to actually commit to it, it costs you so much money.
Yep. Yeah, it's very much an elitist kind of.
Yeah, very much.
Vibe. But there is some good courses around like that you can just almost just walk on.
Yeah.
The thing that stops me is always having to book like a tee time. Because at home you just be like, oh, you want to go play golf? Cool. Just walk on and play. And so I hate having to do that.
Having someone tell you when you need to play.
Well, I'm constantly booking stuff all throughout the week, so I'm like, I don't want. I just want to play.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, but mate, we'll have to have a game of golf.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, maybe.
Be like pool.
You probably a chance to beat me, mate. I don't score that well.
I'll give it a red hot go.
I'm because again we didn't score that much at home, so we just like would play for the sake of playing.
Yeah, I think I'm very much at that stage.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth me keeping my scores.
No.
Just be sad. Sad and upsetting.
Yeah. Well, mate, that was a good little intro. We definitely got on.
Is that just the intro? Is it?
Well, we
All
got started.
fantastic.
Usually, well, I don't do like a very formal intro,
Yeah.
but like we're just gonna jump into it and
See
how
where we go.
So, well, I guess we've got the listeners, the massive audience that I have, probably don't know who you actually are. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate, and what you do.
I am. Do I need to say my name? Surely it'd be on the
It'll be
podcast.
Yeah.
I'm the head of education for One Playground,
Yeah.
which is obviously the gyms that we work for.
Yeah.
What do I do? Well, I do my best. That's
You do your best,
that's what I try
which
and
is
do.
very, very good.
So I run industry education, so through our Certificate 3-4, which is called our Certified Coach Program, additional industry programs, so an industry ready program, and then manage the education across the multi departments within the company.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what my role is now.
Yeah. And it's progressed quite a lot over the years.
It certainly, it has. Yeah, it started as a personal trainer in Newtown, and this was nine years ago now, into my ninth
Actually,
year.
I probably remember you would have been one of the first trainers that I kind of saw at Newtown, because I used to train at Newtown before I started here at Surrey, and I remember seeing you there.
Fuck, he's good.
Yeah, that's it. He knows what he's talking about. Yeah.
I remember I spent so much time when I started. First of all, winging it.
We all do.
As we all do, yeah. But second of all, choosing things that I thought would look impressive to other people so that they thought that I knew what I was doing. So I remember coming up with trying to do all these elaborate things, or coming across things that I hadn't seen anyone really do before.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, everyone would be doing them.
Yeah.
Every client would be doing them. Because I was just like, maybe it makes me look like I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
It's super technical.
When really I was like, oh my God, I ain't got a fucking clue.
Yeah.
And then, so I started at Newtown. And
that was your first PT.
That was my first PT job. I did my qualification in Scotland, in Glasgow, for over 4 weeks.
Yeah, right.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
So after 4 weeks, and in that time, you do it at a hotel.
Yeah.
So it's done at a hotel. So you're basically just sitting in this little hotel conference room, and then you go down to the little hotel gym with their 4 pieces of equipment and
so use a treadmill.
show you how to do it, and then your assessment is basically you then show someone else how to do it, and then you're qualified personal trainer. Away you go.
Yeah.
And then I was working as a gym instructor at the sports centre that I used to work at in Stirling in Scotland, sorry, and did that. And all I had to do then was induct people into the gym and then write them a really basic program. And I didn't really know what I was doing there, but I then came out to Australia, 2 years of backpacking, didn't work as a PT, and then decided that I was ready to start personal training.
Yeah.
So I did 4-week course and then 2 years of drinking, and then there's me, the first day as a personal trainer.
I think that's how most of the
ready
English
to
and
go.
Scottish PTs start at the fitness playground.
Yeah, because I was a member as well.
Yeah.
I remember I was a member first, and I was like, I want to work here.
Yeah.
Like I did a few job interviews and things like that, and I'd got a couple of offers at like a couple of small boutique gyms. But I was like, I was set on working here.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in this position where my visa was ending.
Yeah.
And if I got this role, then I was going to go onto a student visa.
Yeah. Okay.
And if I didn't, I was just going to call it a day.
Yeah.
And fortunately enough, I got this role. It's probably within a couple of weeks of my visa actually ending. I was like, right, go on a student visa.
That just kicked off the whole visa cycle.
Yeah. And then
10 years,
10 years later, I'm still going through the visa process.
And it's flipped on you as well too, going back home.
Well, now we've got 2 visas on the go.
Oh, jeez.
Because one wasn't enough. So we've got...
what do you got to get one to get back into the country?
Well, mine's still pending. Mine's still in the decision stage for PR over here.
Yeah, right.
And obviously now we've got the visa in for Katie, which is pending for her. So we've now got like 2 visas that are just like, we're just waiting. Love a visa, mate. Love a visa.
That'll help you being still working here with yours, or
no,
is
it
yours?
Doesn't. Not at all.
Because you're a partner visa, yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Working here because actually I had to not tell them that I was employed over here.
Right. Yeah.
And I had to use my subcontractor business as proof of income. Yeah. Because if I told them that I was employed by an Australian company paying Australian tax, there was a chance that they wouldn't accept it.
Because right.
So I just had to, fortunately enough, because I was subcontracting last year, before I came back full time, what that means is that I had enough proof of income to say, all right, I can support us in the UK. Anyway, so started at Newtown and then studied a diploma of fitness, studied a diploma of remedial massage. Yeah. And really, I fucking loved it, mate.
You and Ben.
Mate, honestly, 300 hours of like clinic hours, like free massages.
That's wild.
And some of the people, oh, mate, like...
We just do a full podcast on your 300
mate,
hours.
well, there's one time, there was like people that like had scales, there was people that were massive, like sweaty, hairy, everything you can imagine. And we had to do 2-hour massages sometimes. Oh, wow. So 2 hours. In my head, when that started, I was always just like, I could be watching a movie. It was like 2 hours. Like I could be watching a full movie in this time.
Yeah.
But
Instead,
I remember
you're just rubbing some big sweaty.
Yeah, and I remember this one time. I had this guy on the table, and always start face down. So he's face down, backs out because we start on the back, and there's that technique, myofascial technique. Myofascial technique is essentially just really slow, right? So you kind of just like putting a bit of pressure, and almost just letting your arm just move at the pace that it's going to move. Right, so it tends to be really slow strokes. You could be sitting within a very limited, you could be moving across someone's back over the course of 10 minutes. Yeah. So I'd always start there. Yeah. Because it was the least amount of work that I had to do. So there's me. Yeah. Oil in the hands. Yeah. Give it a wee rub. Get it on the back. Elbows into his back.
This is going to be a great soundbite.
And then I started to just lean against him. And I'm just there, and I'm just going into this daze because I'm doing absolutely fuck all.
And it was always on a Friday.
Always on a Friday. Yeah. So I'd go from PT from like 6 till 9. Yeah. Then go to the office and do 9 till 5 in learning and development. Yeah. and then go to the coaching, then go to massage.
Yeah.
And I'd be leaning on this. I was leaning on this guy, and I just started to drift off. And as I was drifting off, a piece of drool just fell out my mouth. And fortunately enough, I'm in this position, and I've clocked it as it's come out, because I'm a heavy drooler. Like when I sleep, you should see my pillow. It's a fucking.
Well, you're a mouth
it's a
breather. You
stain.
can't breathe
Yeah.
through your nose. Yeah.
Well, I got nose strips, and
Yeah.
even that done there, so
Yeah.
loads of drool.
Katie's a lucky girl.
Yeah, she certainly is. Yeah. And as it dropped, I managed to kind of be conscious enough, and I just kind of sweep my arm under, and I catch it on my forearm. But hands down, if it had landed on him, I'd have just pretended it was oil and just kept going. I just like rubbed it in and cracked on.
Meanwhile, you've got both arms on him, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just oil. Where the fuck
Yeah.
did it come from?"
Just poured it out my mouth.
Yeah.
So that was a highlight. But you had to do 300 hours.
Yeah, that's wild.
But it was really good in a sense, because if I never actually did a day's work as a massage therapist.
Yeah, I reckon it would be. It
But
would
if
either
I
make or
had-
break you. Yeah.
Then that would have been really beneficial.
Yeah.
If I had.
You can always come back
Yeah,
to it.
exactly. I got it
maybe.
up my sleeve. Well,
Yeah.
money's quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
money's quite
I
good.
don't know if I could rub people like that for.
You'd have to have like a screening process.
Yeah.
Who you said yes and who you said no to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like no, I can't say that.
Yeah, well, that's a
So,
conversation
yeah,
for
maybe, yeah.
off air, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say something as well, but I won't because we'll probably both get in trouble.
Yeah. So was working in Newtown, and then the way that I learned was just to try and teach others.
Yep.
So it's just the way that I would consolidate, and obviously we ran developments all the time, so I just took that as an opportunity to teach people.
Yep.
And because I'd done that, Darius, who was running Cert 4, was going on holiday.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Do you want to run this?"
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Yeah, cool. Why not?" I'd been in the industry for like 18 months.
Yeah.
But I was like, "Fuck it.
Why not? Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
See what happens." And he comes back and was like, "Do you want to keep running this?"
Sounds like Darius.
I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, fucking sweet."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I just kept running it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was in no position to be running it, but
But you knew more than anybody else that was doing it.
I knew, yeah, you only ever have to be one step ahead.
Yeah.
So I was one step ahead.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I ran that, and then Justin was like, "We need someone in learning and development.
Yeah.
You like education.
Yeah.
Do you want to do this?" I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
Again, had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I just kind of jumped into it. I was like, take the opportunity, see where it goes.
Yeah. But if you're
Um,
enthusiastic enough and you care about it and you're passionate about
Well,
it.
this is it. Like, you can look at it and you've got skill and you've got will.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the skill, but I had the will.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you've got that, then you can get the skill.
Yeah.
If it's the other way around,
It's hard.
it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
So I always just said yes, because I knew that I cared enough about it that I would be able to get myself to a point where I was good at it.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I did. So I went into learning development, then went over to Marrickville, managed the PTs, and then that's when we opened the academy and
Yeah.
started running Cert 3, Cert 4 in its own right.
Yeah.
Doing what?
Is that
doing
still
what we do
running now? Or?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had an intake start on Saturday.
Yeah.
New intake starting. The landscape of the industry is a lot of training providers are moving all online,
Yeah.
exclusively online.
Yeah.
And then sending their students to go and sort out their own hours.
It's almost gone back around because that's what it was like when I.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's so backwards because it's a practical role.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, it is a role that requires you to be in front of people in a physical environment.
Yeah.
It's like you wouldn't get a builder to build your house if they'd done an online course. But for some reason, we think it's okay for personal trainers to do their course online and then be responsible for someone's health.
Yeah.
Because I think, for me, the fitness industry, personal training, I don't know how to say this, it trades in the currency of trust.
Yeah.
because your clients trust that you know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They trust that you've got the right qualifications. They trust that you've got their best interest at heart. They trust everything that you say, more or less, because you're the authority.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they trust you?
Yeah.
But then you could have been like me and done a 4-week course.
Yeah.
And be in this position where, because they trust you so much, you have a large responsibility or a large influence over their health, over their well-being, and you could be giving them a whole load of shit.
Yeah. Especially when you're charging the money that PTs charge as well too, like, and to not have much to back that.
Yeah, it's mad. So you're in this position where, like, I did a 4-week course, and I'm now responsible for this person's health.
Yeah.
Because they're listening to what I say, and they're making the assumption that I know what I'm talking about, and they're making the assumption that I have their best interest at heart, and I did.
Yeah.
But there's other personal trainers that don't.
Absolutely, yeah.
That come into the industry and just go, I like the gym.
Yeah.
I'm going to become a personal trainer.
Yeah.
So the industry and the standard of industry education that is being delivered just isn't preparing personal trainers for the reality of being a personal trainer.
Yeah.
But it's also then doing a disservice to the people that they are training.
Yeah.
And potentially, in some cases, doing more harm than good.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is madness.
Yeah.
And for me, let's going on a fucking rampage here.
Mate, that's great. I was going to say that at the start of the show, tangents are welcome and encouraged, so go for it.
For me, PTs have the potential to be seen as leaders of healthcare because we live on the proactive side of healthcare. You see your doctor, you see your physio, you see your chiro when something's happened, when something's went wrong, when you're hurt, when you're feeling unwell, whatever it might be. Whereas you see your personal trainer 3 times a week, regardless of how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm in my head, if we can increase and improve the proactive side, then there becomes less need or less burden on the reactive side.
Yeah.
So we're putting our eggs in the wrong basket. But I just think that it's hard for PT, it's hard. Personal training has a really bad reputation. It's got a really bad name because you do get absolute gunslingers that are in that position where then everything that we spoke about, they've come in, they've done a course online, they're in it because they like training, not because they like helping people. And
it's easy and
and that's where this stigma around personal training comes from. But I can't even remember what I was about to say here, but it was going to be really, really profound. I've lost my. Let's backtrack. Where were we?
We were talking about how you started doing education.
Less need for the proactive side.
Yep.
Right, and then
more need for the proactive side.
More need,
Less need for the reactive.
Reactive. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's really hard for personal trainers to get recognised for what they do because it's hard to measure something that's been prevented.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So if someone comes into your clinic and they're ill, and then you give them something and then they're not ill, okay, cool, win.
Yeah.
But if you're a coach, personal trainer, you can't measure how many years you might have added onto someone's life.
Yeah.
Or you can't measure whether you prevented them from getting a disease that they might have got.
Or not got hurt.
Or not got hurt. Yeah. So you can't measure what has been prevented, which means that it's really hard to quantify the impact that a personal trainer is having. Yeah. And as a result, people don't look at it with the same, and they won't until the standard of education improves and there's more tight kind of regulations, but people don't look at personal trainers in the same way because they don't see what's prevented.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I've definitely had that before with like in terms of like fixing injuries, and if you haven't like good knowledge around fixing something and then you do it in a short period of time and then clients are like, oh, it mustn't have been that bad. Well, and then because I didn't have to go to a chiro for it or a physio for it, so therefore, and I don't claim to be either or, and I can't diagnose and stuff like that. But when someone's been hurt and then they're like, oh, if my PT fixed it, it mustn't have been that bad. But it probably could have got really, really bad, but because hasn't had that sort of intervention from the professionals that are perceived a lot higher than us.
Yeah.
And it's an industry thing across the board. What do you, obviously the education pathways to get into it is one of the things. What else do you reckon leads it towards being seen like that, the personal trainer?
That will change the perception,
or why?
Or why is it the way it is?
Yeah.
For me, two things. It's education.
Yep.
So the entry level education for coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that personal training could be a degree.
Yeah.
Like a joint honours.
Yeah.
Personal training in nutrition.
Yeah.
Personal training in business.
Yeah.
I think there is enough scope.
Yeah.
Within what we do.
Yeah.
That, and I say we, but I don't even PT anymore.
Yeah, but you did it for
PT
long
at
enough.
heart.
And you've taught enough.
Yeah,
PT,
there's enough scope there.
Yeah.
That it could genuinely be a degree.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when the entry level is so low, the entry point is so low for becoming a personal trainer, then you get such a broad range of quality. So you get from absolute garbage to absolute sensational.
Yeah.
And we know some really, really good coaches. And you get everything in between.
Yeah.
But then you go to a physio, for example, because the easiest example, that range is, because the entry level's higher, the range is smaller.
Yeah.
You can still get bad physios,
yeah.
but never as bad as you can a personal trainer.
Really
so the
PT,
range is smaller.
Yeah.
So I think that has to be the starting point.
Yeah.
But second to that is the support that they're provided when they get into the industry.
Yeah.
So for me, they're the two facets that we're letting PTs down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the big thing. Get them better upskilled joining the industry so they're actually prepared for the reality of becoming a personal trainer.
Yeah.
So I'm not just talking about how to coach a squat, but I'm talking about how to communicate and how to understand people and understand change psychology and understand all of those things, and also then understand how to market and sell and manage your finances. All of those things that are probably more important than their ability to actually coach a squat or a deadlift. So starting with what they actually need, but then when they get into the industry and they get into a workplace, having the structures and the business models that actually support their growth and development.
Yeah.
Now I say that because I can guarantee if I hadn't ended up at Fitness Playground, I wouldn't still be in the industry.
Yeah.
I can guarantee that.
Yeah.
Because after 4 weeks and then 2 years of fucking about, if I had ended up at a Fitness First and I was solely responsible at generating my own leads and showing value and then making sales and then all of those things, I wouldn't have made it. And that's really alarming for me, because I look at it and I think that there is a lot of people that have a lot of potential that never really get to fulfill that potential because they're not given the support that allows them to do so. So I've only got to where I am now because I was given the support when I entered the industry that allowed me to make mistakes in a safe environment, that gave me the information I needed to help me grow, and took some of the risk away that actually meant that if I made mistakes, it wasn't the difference between me being in the industry and not being in the industry. So I think that's a big passion of mine, because I think that there would be people that have the potential to do so much more than I do or than I have, but they'll never get that opportunity because they'll end up in the wrong environment as their first job, and then they'll leave after 6 months, and then they'll go back doing the thing that they tried so hard to get away from. So I think that while rent models and things like that are great and they work, I think we could be doing better to support personal trainers when they get into the workforce.
Yep.
That allows them more time and opportunity to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I was chatting to Matt about it last week, about how the new elevated coach
Yep.
model is, and takes a lot of that stress and risk away, and is a good learning ground for someone to get up to speed, because there's so much stuff that, you know, even just down to, you're going to have at some point 25, 30 clients, and just managing 30
People.
adults.
Yeah, you're a manager.
Yeah.
So you've went from, let's say you get your PT qualification straight out of high school, you've went from high school to then being a manager.
Yeah.
Of 25 people potentially.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah. And a lot of people, like a lot of adults that are older than you and have a lot more life experience,
Yeah.
and they're managers of people as well too, and you're just
100%.
a young lad that likes training, or female that likes training, or, you know, it's pretty crazy, the learning curve and all the things that that are included. And I'm much like yourself, mate. Is like, the reason why I started a fitness playground is because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do, like, you could sink or swim if you're really passionate about it. You could do the rent model, but it's obviously much harder than how we sort of got started, and being able to make mistakes and, you know, all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, definitely.
I guess it goes back to what we're talking about with the golf and stuff like that. You're going to make mistakes learning how to do something. So you might as well be in an environment, in a situation that's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be as bad if you do fail.
Yeah, it's like, what ultimately it comes down to, what is the cost of those mistakes?
Yeah.
And if you're in an environment where you're unsupported, then the cost of those mistakes can be very, very high.
Yeah.
But if you're in an environment where you are supported, then those the cost of those mistakes are actually really, really low.
Yeah. As long as you learn from them and continue to
you
progress.
don't just keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
That's an interesting one with the way that the industry is going with certification, and moving all online, and then them having to go out and find their own practical hours, because that's obviously the job is heavily practically based. But one of the things that we have been lucky with the environment, and it's obviously because of people like yourself setting up the developments and the education and things like that, but it's having that environment of people who are willing to share knowledge on whatever given topic that they're you know, well versed in. Because I know for me, one of the big things that when I moved to Sydney and I started working here was just having more conversations around training, and seeing a wider scope of, okay, well, this person's working with these clients and they're working with these clients, and all those sorts of things. Excuse me. Made such a big difference to my progression as a trainer, and my knowledge, because you don't know what you don't know, and you can go down you go down the rabbit hole of like learning one thing, but then if someone else is learning something completely different, then you can have a conversation about it, and then you can start to link a lot of those things together. And that's what Matt and I were talking about with, what's he say, as a PT we should be an expert or excellent generalist or something like that. Something along the lines, is that you can get a wider scope of, well, one, you should probably work with a lot of different clients so that you can start to learn how, you know, see a wide variety of clients, so then you can start to learn how things sort of piece together, and then specialize when you have that base.
I think with that, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, you're the special guest,
that was
mate.
quite rude of me. I apologise. And I think that you should never fully specialize.
Yeah.
I think you should always work with a broad demographic.
Yeah.
Even if 80% of your clients are within your specialty.
Yeah.
I think you should always leave a portion of them that is general.
Yeah.
But the thing that people go wrong is that they try and specialize immediately, because there's so much noise around niching and specialization. But if you try and niche in your first personal training job, you have no idea at that moment in time who you connect with, who you enjoy working with, who you get the best results with. which means you're not in a position to make that decision. So you choose, you want to work with female body comp to help them compete.
Which absolutely sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it does, yeah. But you go and do that, and you put all your eggs in that basket, and then after 3 months, you realise that you hate them,
Yeah.
you don't connect with them,
They hate you.
and you're not getting them results,
Yeah.
then you've just got to go all the way back to where you started anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it has to work on like almost a staggered approach where you might have an idea of who you want to work with, but
Yeah.
you might go 80% general,
Yeah.
20% target.
Yeah.
And then if you're like, okay, I enjoy working with these people, then it might go 60-40.
Yeah.
Then it might go 40-60.
Yeah.
And then you might leave it at 20-80
Yeah.
over a period of what might be 3 to 5 years
Yeah.
or something like that. But I think it's because there's so much noise around know your audience and things like that, that I think people feel like they should immediately jump into it. But I think having that wider demographic also allows you to be a better human
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
better coach.
Yeah.
Because you learn how to, I look at it as like dials of a speaker system, similar to these guys. And they're like,
working
yeah.
at the moment.
And then each dial is a bit of your personality.
Yep.
And if you only ever work with one group of people, then that range on that dial is going to be really limited.
Yep.
You'll maybe only be able to turn it 2 points
Yep.
each.
Yep.
Because you just have to be the same person
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yep.
Whereas when you work with a wide variety of people, then you start to broaden the range of each of these dials that is your personality.
Yeah.
Where they're still you.
Yeah.
They're still, you're not being yourself, but you have a broader range to be able to move through.
Yeah.
So then some people you've got to turn this up and turn this down, and that's who you need to be for that person. And then 5 minutes later you turn this up, you turn this down, and that's who you are for that person.
Yeah.
And if you don't get that exposure to working with everyone, then you never get that ability to give yourself that breadth.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a guy shadow me. He was doing a PT set. I don't know if it was for, I think it might have been before the academy here. I can't remember how he got in touch. But anyway, he shadowed me for a few sessions, and I think it was like 3 or 4 sessions back to back. And one of the things that he said at the end of it, and I didn't even realize, he's like, you're a different person for every one of those people that you just had. And I was like, oh yeah, like when he said it, I was like, oh yeah, well obviously like this person is different and this person is different, so I can't just have the same like conversation and the same, you know, demeanor every single time, because then that's not like, with personal training, you can't have one client. And even if you have one demographic that, like your ideal demographic, even across that, there's going to be a lot of different personalities that you'll have to be different for. And that's a big skill, and we get a good good scope of that as PTs, that like a good perspective of a lot of different people.
Definitely.
Like that most other people might not get. Like if you've got a desk job and you sit at a desk and you know, talk to a couple people a day, whereas which is one of the draining things about the job as well too, that changing from person to person is
it's fatiguing.
Yeah,
It's tough.
And that's why PTs probably don't talk as much when they get to the end of the day. If someone does, they have to be a psychopath.
Oh, mate, tell me about it. I go home after teaching and I just like hibernate.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Okay, mate, that was good. We got some good stuff there. How are you doing for time?
Yeah, good.
Good,
Yeah,
awesome.
fine, yeah.
Cool. Sweet. Well, we'll talk on the education stuff. So you chatted a little bit about what got you into the education. What do you, or with how you started with doing the PT, so with Darius, and then it's progressed from there. What do you enjoy most about the education side of things? Because obviously that's what you do all the time now.
That's a good question. I think there's 2 parts of it.
Yeah.
And part one is probably the ego of it.
Yeah.
How it makes me feel.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
And then the second part is having or seeing how other people feel as a result of it, or the impact that it can have.
Yeah.
So as I said, I kind of started it from quite a selfish perspective. I started educating because I was using it as a way to consolidate my own knowledge.
Yeah.
So it was purely selfish that I was doing it. I didn't even like presenting.
Yeah, okay.
Like I've never I didn't do this because I've always been good at it.
Yeah.
I remember at uni I had to do a presentation. It's for like computer science or something like that. And I remember standing up and presenting, and I had my notes, so all I had to do was read.
Yeah.
I was holding this piece of paper, and it's just like, just like looked like I was having a seizure.
Yeah.
Being in front of people, public speaking, was just an absolute no-no.
It's one of the biggest fears that people have, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like held up there,
But I
people
think
more scared
it's-
of that than death.
I think, really,
I think so. That could be
Dearly
completely
me.
wrong. When we progress the podcast, and I'll have someone behind to like.
Yeah,
look over
just do the data.
Yeah.
but I think that comes from a fear of judgment.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that stems from, for me, standing up there and feeling stupid
Mm-hmm.
and feeling like I'm going to be judged because I look stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, got into the education largely, as I said, to consolidate my own learning. But then I realised the impact that it was having, and then I actually kind of connected with, well, if I can train 10 people, 10 coaches, and all of them have 20 clients,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm impacting 200 people.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm working with 20 clients myself, I'm only impacting 20 people.
Yeah.
So I then started connecting with using it as a way to have a greater impact. I'm driven by impact.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my kind of values is purpose.
Mhm.
Like there's things that I could be doing to try and become a millionaire, but I wouldn't enjoy doing them if they wasn't connected to some kind of
Purpose.
yeah, exactly. Without saying the same word twice.
Yeah. I do it all the time, mate.
Yeah. So I think then that became, oh well, actually I can have a bigger impact here.
Yeah.
And I can reach more people.
Yeah.
And that led me into it in a more. I think that's where it transitioned from just being something that I did
Yeah.
to actually becoming my career.
Yeah.
And what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Because I'm no longer a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Like my role is an educator.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Which
and
is
then-
pretty cool to see that progression as well too.
Mm.
Like like I think you were doing when I would have first met you, you would have been doing the certification then.
I would have, yeah.
But it's really, really cool to see that just go from, and I guess it's also a testament to the role that it's such a broad role of being a PT that you need to specialize in a lot of things, and then you can go down an avenue and
Definitely.
and we have obviously a really good learning ground at One Playground to be able to do that. But it's really, really cool to see where that's got to now. And now because you're
Yeah.
the education across the whole company, for everything.
Yeah, all departments, which
That'd be
is
good for the ego, mate.
massive. Yeah, massive for the ego.
I never would have took you as someone egotistical.
Yeah, I've got it in me. Yeah,
That's good.
definitely. I definitely have it in me.
Everybody does though.
I think so. Yeah, and I think a lot of that, because another thing is I value being recognised.
Yeah.
Right, and I think things like being egotistical and valuing recognition are things that people associate with being bad.
Yeah.
I almost used to think of them as a bad thing, as
Negative thing.
negative thing, and almost like be embarrassed about them,
Yeah.
and not want to tell people that those things were important to me or I was that person.
Yeah.
But really, it just is what it is.
I think it's human nature. Like if we don't care about, we shouldn't solely care about what other people think. But if we didn't care about what anybody thought, then we'd all walk around looking like shit all the time and be out of shape. And there's always like someone else's view that affects what we do. Well, it should be the
Definitely.
only thing. But if it's driven then by, like you said, the impact that you can then make and the purpose that you have that feeds it all, I don't think it's a bad thing. But it can be seen that way.
Absolutely.
That's obviously probably, I don't know if it's the difference between, if someone's like that, driven by somewhat ego, but also impact and purpose, and then someone just being narcissistic and they're just just all about me and, self-absorbed, but we won't get too far into that. But yeah, no, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, so it was one of those things that then, once I got into it, and because I still struggle to identify. I've got to shift how I identify, because I still sometimes identify as a coach, as a PT.
Yeah.
So like even earlier when I'm saying we and this, like, but I've got to kind of move away from that and actually like now I've got to identify more as a educator, but not even within coaching, because that's not my only scope anymore.
Yeah.
And I've got to kind of expand that. But what tended to happen was, because I was doing so much teaching, and when I was teaching back originally, I was just delivering information.
Yeah.
I wasn't teaching.
Yeah.
I was just standing and just like chucking the kitchen sink. And I think that people enjoyed it because they're like, yeah, that's really cool. It got a reaction and things like that. But then really the information that they were retaining and the information that they were applying was non-existent.
Yeah.
And you think we live in a world like it's a fucking bukkake of information out there. Like we're just taking information on the face, between the ears.
We won't explain that exact definition because my mum listens.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
She's probably one of my
What's your
only
mum's name?
listeners. Sharon.
Sharon, don't Google that. Especially if you've got safe search off.
But it's a really, really.
But we do. It's like information isn't the thing we're short of.
Yes, yeah.
And
it's the information age. You can find out anything.
Anything. And
especially now with AI and stuff like that, when people are like, oh, it's going to replace, these roles. I don't think our role can be replaced by that.
No, definitely not. But when you think about that, people don't come to you for information. They come to you for implementation.
Yeah.
Because they can get the information if they want it. They come to you to know how to use it.
Yeah.
And to know how to actually apply it.
Yeah.
And be supported through that process, that change process. But I think there's that difference where a lot of people go, okay, I'm going to teach, and then they just present. They just deliver information, but they don't then give people the tools to apply it.
Which
and
is
actually
very good to boost the ego when you stand up there just delivering it.
Yeah, it is,
everybody's been guilty of it at a point.
Well, I use it like, if you think the role of an educator isn't to be a presenter.
Yeah.
That's a tertiary role of what you do as an educator. Your role as an educator is one, as a facilitator, and two, as a coach. Because I think if you're a presenter, if you think about presenting, that's focused on you. That's focused on what you're doing and focused on what you're saying. Whereas being a facilitator and a coach, that's focused on what they're doing and what they're saying. And it's the person doing that is the person learning.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a good educator, it's not about standing up there and delivering information. It's about creating environments that allow people to learn from themselves and learn from each other. Yeah. And you're just there to help them navigate that journey and just help them get to the finish line. So the biggest change in how I teach is now I don't do that much.
Yeah.
So the amount that I do, the amount of teaching that I do is minimal.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to create environments that allow them to come to their own conclusions and teach themselves or teach each other. And then I'm just there helping them through the journey. So I kind of went through this process where I was doing so much teaching and I was just chucking information at them. I was like, well, if this is going to be my job, I need to start understanding how people learn.
Yeah.
So I went down this rabbit hole of trying to understand like learning science and neuroscience and things like that are going to help me understand how people actually retain information and then how I can use that to become a better teacher.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately kind of led me to where I am now.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool. And you just stole my question because I was just about to ask, how did you get into the rabbit hole of doing all that?
Yeah.
So we'll just sit in silence for the next little bit.
Perfect.
No, it's really, really cool. It is cool to see. It's annoyingly effective, and I jokingly say that, but it is very effective when we've sat in developments and it might be like a Friday afternoon and we're all tired, and then we walk in and like it's hard, like mentally going into it's like, oh, it's the end of the week, it's going to be hard to learn, but then like you jump into the process and it just pulls you straight into that learning environment. It's very, very different to just presenting and getting information bukkakied, essentially. Which I do enjoy sometimes. Not the bukkake.
I knew there was something going on with you.
I do enjoy sometimes just having the information just presented to me and me being able to pull stuff out of it. But it, like, obviously it can be somewhat at a point lazy in whether someone retains the information or not. But it's really, really cool to see.
Yeah. Well, it's and there's a place for it.
Yeah.
Right. There's a place, and especially if you're interested in the thing that you're listening to or hearing about. But then when you're trying to, if you're actively seeking that as a topic, you're probably more likely to retain it because you're interested in the thing that you're learning. Yeah. But then being able to actually apply it and all of those things, because how much do we listen to that we go, hey, that's really cool, but we never actually do anything with. So you can kind of measure the impact of education or training or delivery or whatever it is, a workshop that you do on 4 different levels. So level 1 is the reaction. So you listen to something or you attend a workshop and you go, that was fucking awesome. That was really good. So if I ran you through a workshop and you came off the back of it and you were like, yeah, that was great, then I've hit level 1. I've got a good reaction. But if I phoned you a week later and said, what did you learn? And you couldn't remember anything, I've probably not done my job very well. So level 2 is learning. So you've got reaction and then you've got learning. So did they actually learn anything? Did they walk away with a new set of skills or a new set of knowledge? But then it goes one level up to behavior. Did it actually change the way that you act on a day-to-day basis? Because if it doesn't change the way you've acted, it doesn't change the way you behave, then it's just information that's sitting in your head not doing anything. Just taking up property. Taking up real estate. So you've kind of got that reaction, then you've got the learning, then you've got the behavior, and then ultimately the results. Like, does it actually get you any sort of results, whether it's in your business, in your personal life, anything like that? And I think a lot of when we listen to stuff, it hits that first one where we listen to it and we go, oh, fuck, that's cool. That was awesome. And we might, because it was cool, we might remember it. So we might get that learning. But more often than not, we never actually get the application, so it never changes the way we behave. And then we never get any results off the back of it, or very, very rarely. So it's that kind of case for, that's where in a learning environment, it's about creating the right environment and the right opportunities for people to know exactly not what it is they need to know, but also how they need to use it and how it can change how they need to be, or how they can use it, and as a result how it will change their behavior.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What like led, or how did you come to that conclusion of getting down that, learning the things that you've learned about that education side of it? Like, what was, so you said you realized that people weren't retaining it. How did it lead you to where, like, learning those stages of whatever it is and stuff like that? Like, how did you get to that point?
Read a lot. Practiced a lot. I think the thing that I was fortunate enough is that I've always been in teaching environments. From running Cert 4, from running Industry Ready, from running developments, mentoring, whatever it is. I've always been in these environments, so I've always had the opportunity. I've always had the feedback. I've always had the chance to practice, and I've always had the feedback as a result. So I take a lot of time to reflect on. I'm very critical on almost every training that I ever run,
Yeah,
and I
okay.
always take the time to reflect.
Yeah.
And I
What's-
think
what's-
it's fair to say that I've never ran the same training twice.
Okay. Yeah.
It always changes to some degree. So there's a high volume of experimentation
Mm-hmm.
in learning, and I am fortunate enough that I get the environments to experiment within.
Yeah.
That allows me to go, oh, that landed really well.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that, or that missed the mark a little bit, or there was confusion, so I need to take that out,
Yeah.
and I need to try this instead. And it's almost just this constant cycle of plugging different things, plugging and playing, like
Yeah.
plugging different things in, pulling other things out, plug this here, put this here, to try and find what is like the best combination that gets the best outcome at the end of it.
Yeah.
And it's just forever evolving.
Yeah.
So I think I did a lot of learning. I bought loads of books on learning science, learning principles, teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But because I had the environment to immediately go and experiment and practice in,
Yeah.
that's what helped consolidate all of it. Because then I was like, okay, this works really well. This didn't work very well, and then I was able to navigate. But I ran, for example, Industry Ready on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I'm running the same workshop on Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm going to change it
Yeah. Okay.
because it didn't run the way that it didn't have the biggest impact it could have.
What did it not the time before, or?
It did. It's always actually been a hard one because it's coaching.
Yeah.
So it's the weighing up whether you focus on a lot of learning how to coach can be done through observing people coaching and then being able to pull out the principles
Mm-hmm.
of it. So it's that toss up between giving them the process
Mm-hmm.
and giving them a coaching framework, explain, demonstrate, focus, feedback, using that as a model, giving them some cues to work within, or just pulling 10 people up and coaching them and letting them see it.
Yeah.
And when you try to facilitate coaching within a group, it's something that I find challenging.
Yeah.
Within a group of 10 people, to make sure that everyone gets the same amount out of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I ran it on Tuesday, introduced a coaching model, and then got them away doing it. So really focus more on the process of it. But they got most value when I was just walking around having individual conversations with people, coaching them through their own movement and improving it through helping coach them to improve their own movement.
Yeah.
And then building their competence and building their understanding from there.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to do more of that.
Yeah, of course. Particularly like as PTs, we do like to move around a bit and feel like how something might feel before. Like I won't coach anything unless I've
Felt it.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm doing. So I guess we're on to that more, like the industry ready. In your opinion, what are some of the biggest challenges or misconceptions people face when they are getting started with that in that instance, like that industry ready program, or if they've come to you before that? Yeah.
So getting into the industry.
Yeah.
I think that the reality is that a lot of them come out of their qualification with more questions than answers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And that's what the program is designed to bridge the gap between education and experience. And in its simplest form, they're coming into it and they're hungry and they want to learn and they feel like there's massive gaps in their education and they're just looking for more, looking for someone to fill those gaps. And I look at it as the program is built around to be a successful PT, you need to be able to do two things. You need to be able to get clients,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to be able to keep clients.
Mm-hmm.
That is overly simplistic, but it's true.
Yeah.
So I look at that as like your onboarding experience from the moment someone expresses interest in working with you through to that point of sale,
Mm-hmm.
and then from day one through to their first 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it as 90 days in particular, because from what we know, 90 days is the most at-risk time of someone cancelling their personal training.
Yep.
Even more so, like 80% of clients will normally cancel within their first 12 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And 80% of them will normally cancel within their first 4 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
And a lot of that comes down to expectations.
Yeah.
So the expectations that have been set when they decide to commit to personal training haven't been met within those first 4 to 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, they decide that it's no longer for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at really focusing on those two timelines, acquisition and retention, but just up to their 90 days. Because I'm a firm believer that if you can keep someone for 90 days, you can keep them for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Anything like that. And it's all built on expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So making a sale is that you're exceeding someone's expectations in the short term. When you invest in coaching, do you know exactly what's going to happen?
Yeah, probably not.
You don't. You're buying a hypothetical.
Yeah.
You're buying something that you've either been told or that you think, potentially because you've been told that and that's why you think it. So you're told that you might do a session, an intro session with them, and because you've spent 40 minutes, you might think that they're a nice guy,
Mm-hmm.
and you might think that they're the right person to help you achieve your goals, and you might think that you could work with them over that first 40 minutes that you spend with them, and then you sit down, they do the price presentation, and you go, okay, I think that I'm going to achieve my goals. I think that I'm going to get a program. I think that I'm going to get this, and all of these things that you perceive and you think, that is enough for you to make a buying decision.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no concrete evidence that any of that is going to happen or any of that is true.
Yeah.
You're buying purely on a hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only and if that hypothetical and that perceived value is high enough, you'll take the plunge, you'll invest. And what you then realize, potentially, is that all of those things aren't actually true.
Yeah.
And then within that, those expectations that you had haven't been met. And as a result, you cancel your PT.
Mm-hmm.
Or they are exceeded. So it's actually, here's all the things you promised and here's all the things I thought about you. It's actually better than I expected.
Yeah.
And you exceed expectations and then you refer people.
Yeah.
And you stay a long time.
Yeah.
You tell all your friends.
Yeah.
So what it focuses on is the process from expression of interest through to sale, through to the sale, and all the touch points that you'll have along that journey, from phone call, park queue, consultation, movement screen, intro session, price presentation, everything that you can be doing to demonstrate and communicate the value of your product to make them say yes.
Yeah.
And then what you can be doing over those first 7, 21, 90 days to actually deliver on all the things that you've promised, but not just meet the expectations, but actually exceed them, so that you get to a point where they're referring people into your business.
Yeah. So it's very similar to the I guess it's like a speed run of what the elevated coach kind of experiences.
Yeah. So it's almost like a hybrid where the industry ready was kind of built off, because we always had the intro session process that we did with our coaches.
Yeah.
And it was kind of built off that.
Yeah.
But then we built the onboarding experience in the industry ready program first, actually, and then transferred it into the elevated coach program. So it's kind of like they've been working together in synergy, where we pulled the acquisition stuff from what we already did within one playground, but then we built the retention stuff in the industry ready program and then pulled it into what became the new education model, the new process within the elevated coach program.
Yeah, which is very, very cool to see the progression from when I started.
I was mad, yeah. We didn't get any of this.
I think we were promised like a booklet to fill out, and
yes, it's what they get now is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You can't go wrong.
You pretty much you can't go wrong if you. I always tell the new guys, if you just do whatever that whatever the process is, do it, because they've had many coaches go through the same process in many different forms along, the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And what's worked and what's not worked.
Comes down to experimentation.
Yeah.
It's just been 10 years of experimentation to get to where it is now.
Yeah.
And it'll be another 10 years of experimentation, and it'll probably look completely different in that time than it does now. And we'd look back at that and be like,
oh shit,
that was a fucking heap of shit. What were we doing?
So on that, like, where do you see that progressing to? Like, I guess probably one playground is going to be like the industry leader, or is the industry leader already with that stuff. Where do you see in the future it progressing to?
I think that my goal is for us to have, as you said, the world's best education.
Yeah.
And I think we have the potential to do it, especially within the fitness industry.
Yeah.
But it's not for me about just doing what other people do better.
Yeah.
It's about completely transforming how it's done.
Yeah.
And I want to, similar to a career pathway.
Yeah.
You have a career pathway, and it's all centered around, okay, you go from this role and then you grow to here and you grow here. Like we have a level system. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
I think that within education, the most critical part of education is giving the right person the right information at the right time and delivering it in the right way.
Yeah.
That has to underpin everything.
Yeah.
And I think that comes down to, with the amount of information, our bukkake, people focus on the wrong information at the wrong time, and then they don't succeed.
Yeah.
Right? There's no point in knowing about gut health if you don't know what carbohydrate is.
Yeah.
Or there's no point in being an expert in programming if you've got no clients to program for.
Yeah.
So it's all got to be about the right information at the right time. And my goal is to create an education pathway that presents every person what they need when they need it.
Yeah.
Right? So the Elevated Coach as a program is the first part of that. But what we want to then build is for our kind of level 2, level 3, level 4 coaches is have a series of courses, both internal but also external courses that cover all of the core disciplines within the industry. So there might be a business stream, there might be a rehab stream, strength stream, body comp stream, nutrition stream, and then there's a series of courses that fall within those streams. And our coaches can, once they go through the Elevated Coach program, business might be a compulsory stream, and then there might be electives. So it's like you choose 3 of those 5 additional streams, and you do those as part of your progression that helps you specialize. And then having a leadership pathway to then becoming a mentor or becoming an educator or being able to have that opportunity. So I look at it as like the growth of a personal trainer. You move through 4 different stages. So first stage is that you build. And the focus of the build is just to have enough clients paying you enough money to be able to call this your full-time career. Then you begin to leverage. So you systemize and automate and begin to try and leverage your time a bit better so that you can work with the same amount of people, but it be less burdensome, time consuming.
Which is a big thing for PTs.
Which is a big thing for PTs, So they need to better leverage themselves and their time and their automations and their systems, but that can only happen once you've got a full business. So you kind of build and then you leverage and then you scale, where you start to, because you've got the systems and the automations, it allows you to work with a higher volume of people without it negatively impacting the service that you're delivering, the quality of the service that you're delivering. And then after that, I think you then transcend, where you start taking your skills and applying it in other areas, right? So you become an educator, you become a mentor, you start to actually go beyond what was that initial role that you did. And I think each of those stages require you to learn and understand different things, and being able to then provide a pathway to being able provide coaches and our staff and our PTs a pathway to be able to move through those stages seamlessly,
Yeah.
so that they get everything that they need when they need it.
Yeah, for sure, mate. That sounds like the perfect thing if someone wants to be the best PT in the world, to go through that.
Hopefully.
Yeah, no, it sounds really, really cool, and it's like it hits all the marks of the things that someone would need to know. And I think a big thing, we've chatted about this before, like having the right information at the right time, and more of the need to know stuff instead of the nice to know stuff, because it's very easy to just, which is a good thing to get down that the nice to know stuff if someone's really interested in doing something. But if it detracts from your business or your career trajectory and pathway, then it's probably just unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've spent a lot of time down a lot of rabbit holes
Yeah.
that probably weren't beneficial, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, and that's still a good use of time, and I think we are lucky with our industry that for a lot of us, it's working in doing the thing that is our hobby to a certain extent, like training for the most part. Like I've chatted about this the last couple of episodes of, like, it's part of us. Like most of us will just always train because that's the thing that we do. But I don't know where I was going to go with that.
Cool.
Can't remember what I was going to
I agree. I agree with everything you just said up until the point.
I can't remember what I was going to say. I don't know.
Don't come to me to elaborate. I have no idea where you're going.
Well, I was saying that we're lucky enough to be able to. It's time well spent, in that if you enjoy learning about something, like, it's a good thing to do. Surely it can't detract too much from.
Yeah, I put it as a bit of a hierarchy, where if I'm telling or saying, like, what should you focus on first? So in the Industry Ready program, it's kind of at the bottom, if you imagine the triangle as a model with 3 layers. At the bottom for me is coaching people, because I think you have to coach the person before the exercise.
Yep.
And we're in a relationships business.
Yeah.
So having and being able to build those relationships and connect with people is going to be so important, because ultimately your role is to help someone through the change process. And you're only going to be able to help someone through the change process if you have that trust and that rapport and that credibility and all of those things, but you also have the communication skills and the emotional intelligence and the awareness to actually be able to coach them through that process.
Yeah.
So I think coaching people is at the heart of everything. And then I like, if you're going to learn anything, focus on that first. Yeah. Then managing a business. So being able to, similar to what we were saying, acquire and retain clients, manage your finances, all of those sorts of things. And then at the very top of the pyramid is like coaching people, coaching exercises, sorry. Because for me, that's the least important thing that people need to learn. Because 1, it's the thing that they learned most on their course. 2, it's the thing that they enjoy most, so they've probably done their most learning of it in their own time anyway. Yeah, so they're probably so they're probably in a position where they've got enough to be able to train someone. Yeah. And then thirdly, they're going to get most exposure to that when they're working in a gym environment, because they're surrounded by it every day. Yeah. Whereas the coaching people, the communication, all of that stuff, and the business management, you don't get that level of exposure. Yeah. So rather than focusing on the thing that you, like, if you're getting started, rather than focusing on programming, becoming a shit hot programmer, or all these, like what I did, all of these fucking mad exercises that are meaningless in the long run. Yeah. Just trust that you know enough from a technical perspective in the short term, and then focus on learning about people and learning about business. Yeah. And then once you're happy and you're confident in those, then you can loop back round to learning or becoming an expert from a technical perspective.
Yeah, and if you get those skills and those, particularly in what we do, those systems up and running, it takes a whole lot of stress off everything, and then you can actually enjoy the learning that you do on the stuff that you're already good at.
And pay someone that's got those systems already.
Yeah.
Pay them to give you their systems.
Yeah. So if you want to PT come to one playground.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like it's the ideal start if you were to be like, cool, I want to be the best PT. And it also in a shorter period of time as well too, then you'd be able to do elsewhere. If you were to go on your own, and you might think that you'd be able to learn it all, but like obviously people like you and Matt have built these systems that have covered all the bases.
This podcast is sponsored by One Playground.
Well, everybody there. Well, yeah. Can we get it sponsored? Surely.
I reckon, yeah, sure.
We've promoted them enough.
There you go.
No, that's really good. Let's put your PT hat on for a little bit, mate, because you are still. I would still consider you a PT. One of the points that I was going to say, I know that you're doing the education stuff, but one of the points that I was going to say that it does help with how you're doing for time. You right?
Yeah, we can keep going.
Okay.
Maybe for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, cool, awesome. This one we'll go rapid fire. So one of the things that you were saying, what you say holds a lot more weight because you have been a PT and you are a PT. Like you've got all the qualifications to be a PT. So when you're teaching PTs, then that makes a big difference. But one of the questions that I want to get into the habit of asking, because it obviously is a fitness podcast.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about exercise, but only for 5-10 minutes. If you had let's go top 5 exercises for you and why. I was going to say 10, but we've only got 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes.
If you asked me to do 10, I don't think I'd be able to.
You would be able to, mate. I've seen all the content you've got for the...
I know, but without sounding too much like a dick, it depends.
Yes. the classic answer.
Yeah, it does. It
your
depends.
My top 5 exercises.
My top would probably be a trap bar deadlift.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
I think that if I was coaching now, I think I'd probably not get many people on a barbell.
Yep.
I reckon I'd probably just keep a lot of people on a trap bar.
Yeah. I always start there, and if they don't need to progress from that,
yeah,
keep them there.
Because it's got the load capacity.
Yeah.
But it's just a more favourable position. It's easy for them to get into.
Yeah.
So I'd definitely say trap bar deadlift.
Yep.
So there's one. What do I like? I'm trying to think about my own program just now.
Yeah.
Love a pendulum.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Big fan of a pendulum.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing it in my programming, and maybe it's just because it's a recency bias that I'm saying this.
Yeah.
But it's been my primary squat.
Yep.
In my programming, and I did it because I wasn't enjoying training. I kind of fell out of love a bit, and I started working with a coach, and my remit to him was give me things that I will enjoy and that I won't talk myself out of.
Yeah.
So I would have talked, because I train at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I will talk myself out of a heavy barbell back squat at 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
But I won't talk myself out of a pendulum.
I could talk myself out of that at 6 a.m. Yeah. But yes, no, it's a really, really, really good point.
Low complexity, and I can just express output.
Yeah.
I can just go, and I don't have to worry about all the other variables that come with it.
Yeah.
So a pendulum, probably purely by recency, is definitely up there.
If you don't care about a back squat, I obviously love it, but don't do it if you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And same thing with a conventional deadlift. If you don't want to do a conventional deadlift, but a pull off the floor is good, do that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely.
2.
Do you know what? You've put me on the spot. There's probably things that I'd be like, if I'm teaching, I love this.
Yeah.
This would be in every program that I'd ever write.
Yeah.
I love it. Do you know what I've enjoyed doing, and I hadn't really done a lot of them, but like razor curls.
Yep. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. So I'm not a Nordic. I don't have the hamstrings for a Nordic.
Yeah, I did, but I hate to say that I can't do it anymore.
I've just about got the hamstrings for a razor curl.
Yeah. And
being able to just get the hamstring through knee flexion and through hip extension within one, I think it's
and probably the most amount of load that you can put on your hamstrings bar like a stiff leg deadlift or a deadlift maybe on a seated leg curl, but I think it's probably one of the more effective exercises in terms of the magnitude of load and, like you said, the knee flexion and the hip extension.
Yeah. I from a coaching perspective, when I was working with clients, I loved the half kneeling position.
Yep.
I used to put my clients in half kneeling a lot, depending on what level they were, but probably for their first 3 months if it was a beginner.
Yep.
Because for me, it was prepping them for their unilateral exercises that would come later.
Mm-hmm.
Because a good half kneeling is a split squat.
Yep.
So it was that blend of wants and needs.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to give them what they want through their pull pattern if it was a half kneeling cable row, or their push pattern if it was a landmine press.
Mm-hmm.
Landmine press I'd probably put in there actually. Love a landmine press.
So we're saying that as 4?
Yeah.
You had to get an upper body
Yeah.
exercise in there. 3 lower body. It's a good list. I like
love,
it.
mate. I want tree trunks. I'm all for. I want legs like yours.
Just back squat.
So yeah, so half kneeling would definitely be a big one, because from a client perspective, if they're rowing, they're rowing, and as long as they feel what they want to feel or what they associate with what they should be feeling, they're happy.
Yeah.
But then I was also then looking at that lower body stability and preparing them for what was going to come later in their programming if they were at that level, if they were a heavy beginner.
Yeah.
So I used to really like a half kneeling. So if we're talking that, I'd probably chuck in a landmine, because I think it was a really good. I've used it a lot. And then what is this, number 5?
This would be
Do you know what, assault bike?
Yeah, fair.
I love an assault bike.
I don't think that's ever been said.
It's awful, I love an assault bike.
It is very, very good. Very good.
I think they're all biased because I've been out the game for a little while from a actually client perspective.
But it's probably good. It's a good list for someone who is just training to train, and they want to get a lot of things in there that are going to accomplish a lot in a short period of time. Like, they're all excellent exercises.
Yeah.
Trap bar, you can't go wrong. Pendulums, like a full squat, you can't go wrong. And if you don't have to worry about the stability demands, that's excellent. Your half kneeling press, obviously shoulders, and you got a bit of core, and then you're going to accomplish a lot with an assault bike.
Yeah, I think
if you were to just rinse every one of those,
you'd do all right.
Yeah,
you'd do all right.
Yeah.
But because I remember that, similar to what you said there, it covers a lot. But I remember when I used to be a coach, I fell down the rabbit hole of. I got to the point where I was so focused on giving them what they needed. I completely disregarded what they wanted.
Yeah.
I became a really bad coach for a period of time.
Yeah.
Where
we all have.
I was trying to do all this stuff that they probably didn't give a fuck about.
Yeah.
All these mobility things and this, that, and the other, and it actually got to a point where I came full circle.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm actually just going to focus on giving them what they want.
Yeah.
If that is 2 exercises and it lasts 20 minutes and it's just the thing they enjoy, I'm going to give them that.
Perfect.
Because at the end of the day, if they enjoy it, they're going to keep coming back.
Yeah.
And if they keep coming back, they're going to get results.
Yeah.
And if they get results, they're going to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
And then they're going to adhere to it more. And then they're going to get results. And it becomes this cycle. And as they build competence, then you can start to blend in more of what they need.
Yeah.
But I went through this period and fortunately enough came out the other side where a lot of my programming, if I was to program for someone now, it'd be so heavily biased just towards the things that they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Making sure there's enough balance within there, but just giving the stuff they enjoy that they're actually going to turn up for.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if you can do that early on, it then starts that cycle and gets people results, which is ultimately what we do.
What we're after.
That's it, the outcome. Cool, man.
That was fantastic.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that.
Excellent. I think you might be...
Mate, I've been away from the office for far too long.
That's right. You've been promoting.
It's been a good 2 hours, yeah.
We've got a massive audience, mate. So you're going to have an influx of personal...
That's it. That's what we want.